We often think of mythology as this, dusty library of ancient stories.
Right. Subjective, cultural, beautiful things.
Beautiful, but maybe not rigorously scientific. We love the narrative, but we don't really look at it as raw data.
Exactly. But what if those myths weren't just stories? What if they were actually a secret map?
A map.
A hidden geographical key to human history, just sort of waiting for someone to apply the right quantitative lens.
That is precisely the groundbreaking idea we are diving into today.
We're talking about Professor Yurii Berezkin's mythological database project.
And I have to say, this isn't just someone cataloging cool legends.
Yes.
It's an unprecedented effort that completely redefines how we can use folklore.
It really is. If you connect this to the bigger picture, this project is almost 2 decades in the making.
17 years, specifically.
17 years, and it totally transcends traditional myth study. It transforms these subjective narratives into objective historical evidence.
So our mission today is pretty straightforward. We need to explore the sheer and, frankly, unbelievable scale of this deep dive.
Then we'll get into how Berezkin's system actually works scientifically to reconstruct history.
And finally, we'll tackle what I think is the most surprising takeaway, why the most simple questions you can ask in the field are often the most valuable.
And the most neglected.
Exactly.
So to start, let's just talk volume, sheer volume, because that really sets the stage for the intellectual endurance we're talking about here.
Hit us with the numbers.
The database, right now, has over 60,000 mythological texts.
60,000.
And that number is, by the way, growing every single day.
60,000 distinct texts. Just the abstracting and the processing of that much material is staggering.
It is. The professor himself noted that no other database like this exists.
Or likely ever will.
Probably not, just because of the time commitment. He said it's impossible to make abstracts of 60,000 texts in a year. It's a lifetime's work just to curate it.
It's an unparalleled achievement in, the digital humanities?
Absolutely. They are basically taking the entire oral history of the globe and translating it into manageable, structured, and critically quantifiable data points.
So the scale is massive, but scale alone isn't science.
True.
We need to understand the architecture. How does the system take those 60,000 texts and actually make them useful? It has to be more than a big digital library.
It absolutely is. The whole system is structured around 3 core analytical components.
Okay.
And these let researchers cross-reference everything and look for patterns.
Walk us through them. What's the first one?
First, you have the visual part, the maps.
Okay.
These maps show the geographical spread of individual mythological motifs across the globe. You can essentially chart a single story unit and see where it pops up.
So like a specific flood narrative or something.
Exactly, and you can see it on every continent.
Which is obviously crucial for the historical analysis since the whole mission is based on geography.
Precisely. The second component is the textual catalog. That's the source material itself, the original story texts.
Now, we should mention, the maps are in English, but the texts themselves
are still only in Russian for now. That's an important detail.
And this whole colossal effort was sustained by grants, right?
It was. For most of its history, it had vital support from both Russian and European grants, which really speaks to how important the international community saw this.
And for any researchers listening, they can get access.
They can. It's restricted, but the team says anyone who's genuinely interested can request a login and password. They want the data to be used.
Okay, so maps, texts. What's the third component? You said it was kind of the secret sauce.
It is. It's the scientific engine. It's the binary table of motif distribution according to tradition.
Right. Before we get into what that table does, we need to understand the dimensions here, the depth.
The depth is incredible. So the project selects and tracks these distinct narrative units, or motifs.
Okay.
The number of selected motifs is nearly 2,700, and that list is always growing.
Wait, hold on. 2,700 distinct mythological concepts. That means they had to create a kind of universal taxonomy, a way to categorize and cross-reference almost every recurring thought in global mythology.
That is some serious intellectual heavy lifting. It's like inventing a new comparative language for human thought.
And these 2,700 motifs are tracked across how many traditions?
Almost 1,000 distinct traditions.
How are they defining a tradition here? Is it a language, a tribe?
It's a distinct cultural or linguistic group that shares a body of myths. So the scope is, it's truly global.
From where to where?
From South Africa all the way to Tierra del Fuego in South America. The coverage is total.
That level of detail is amazing, but it does raise a question about the data itself. With 1,000 traditions, you must have huge variations in how rich the source material is. Not every culture has the same volume of recorded myths.
That's a necessary complexity, and it's a point of rigor for them. You do have some traditions that are incredibly rich, with hundreds of motifs.
And others.
Others might have only a few registered, maybe 3 or 5. But most are somewhere in the middle, between 100 and 200.
So you could have, say, the huge epic mythologies of ancient Greece sitting right next to a small set of stories from an isolated Amazonian tribe.
Exactly.
Doesn't that create a bias? Won't the richer traditions just dominate the data and skew the patterns?
That's where they enforce objectivity. That difference is considered objective. Some traditions just are richer than others.
But the key is how they handle the distribution of those rich and poor data sets.
Precisely. What they found, and what's so crucial, is that the rich and poor traditions are distributed across the world more or less uniformly.
Ah, so they aren't all clustered in one area.
Right. If all the rich traditions were in, say, Eurasia, the patterns would be suspect. But because they're spread out, it prevents that bias. This uniformity is a check on their whole system.
That is a remarkable safeguard.
Yeah.
So you've normalized the data just by observing that the quality imbalance is itself random.
You've got it.
And that distinction brings us right to the core, so what, Sanrad, of this whole thing. This isn't just about classification.
That's right. The core mission is absolutely clear. The project is explicitly not related to the study of myth itself.
They aren't doing literary analysis.
No, or psychology. It is related directly to the study of history, reconstructing historical processes of human movement.
Mythology as a verifiable, quantifiable tool for historical reconstruction. That's a radical shift.
It is.
So how does tracking whether a specific interpretation of a constellation appears in South Africa versus Southeast Asia actually reveal ancient human movements?
It all comes back to that binary table we mentioned. We're interpreting the geographical distribution of shared motifs as the result of historical processes.
Migration, contact, isolation.
All of it, over deep time.
So let's spend a moment on this binary table, because this sounds like where the magic happens. Give us a clear analogy for the listener.
Okay, think of it like a massive cultural DNA sequencer.
I like that.
It's laid out like a giant spreadsheet. Every column is one of those nearly 2,700 motifs, like a specific detail about a deluge myth, or the belief that souls travel along the Milky Way.
In every row.
Every row is one of the 1,000 traditions. So the Sora, the Bon, the Carrioleption, these Indian traditions from the sources, each one gets a line.
And then in each cell, you just put a 1 or a 0.
Is the motif present or is it absent? Simple as that.
So you create this enormous high-resolution map of cultural presence and absence across the whole globe. And you're looking for clusters of ones.
You're looking for where highly specific, non-obvious motifs align across geographically distant cultures.
Right.
So if two traditions, say the Sora and the Bon, share a really specific, complex set of 50 motifs out of all 2,700, that alignment strongly suggests a deep historical connection.
A connection like a shared ancestor or a migratory path that's been forgotten by written records.
Or even by linguistic records. It's like finding two people on opposite sides of the world who share a rare genetic mutation.
It proves common ancestry.
Exactly. Here, you're using common stories to prove common human movement. And because of the rigor we discussed, the uniform distribution, the historical tendencies you find are likely objective.
They're not an invention.
They're a reflection of real human movement over millennia.
That is truly amazing. You've taken 60,000 subjective stories and turned them into hard, quantifiable historical markers.
Yeah.
But this whole system, this giant map of cultural DNA, it all hinges on getting the initial data points right.
It does.
And that leads us to the urgency of simple fieldwork and this academic blind spot the professor identified.
This is such an important point. Why is so much of this fundamental data still missing after centuries of research?
What did he observe?
He observed a common tendency in academia. Academics, they tend to gravitate toward these very complex sociological questions.
Like what?
Things like deep political integration, intricate relations between linguistic groups, social dynamics of large versus small population, complex, worthy subjects.
The kind of thing that yields high-status research papers.
Exactly. But in the rush to analyze the complex structure,
They overlook the bedrock foundation.
they overlook the simple, fundamental folk interpretations, the basics that define a culture's primary worldview, the questions that seem almost too basic to ask.
I can't imagine what they're skipping over.
Yeah.
Give us some examples. What are these simple questions?
They are questions about the things we all see every night.
Oh.
What is the Big Dipper? What are the Pleiades? What is the Milky Way? Or, what is a rainbow? Is it a snake? Is it the bow of the Hindu deity Rama?
Those are foundational cultural answers. If you don't know how a culture interprets the night sky, you're missing a massive piece of their entire cosmological narrative.
It seems like an unbelievable oversight, doesn't it?
It does.
And we have a crucial, almost shocking detail here that perfectly illustrates this, the anecdote from Himachal Pradesh.
Tell us that story.
So the professor sent two linguists, two women, to do fieldwork in Himachal Pradesh, and he gave them a simple questionnaire focusing heavily on these questions about the night sky.
And what did they find when they finally asked?
One of them went to an elderly lady in the region. She asked these simple questions. What do you call the Big Dipper? What are your stories about the Pleiades? And the old lady just immediately and easily gave her the answers.
So she knew the information.
Intimately. But here's the kicker.
What's that?
According to the lady, nobody asked people in Himachal this simple question for 150 years.
Wait, 150 years?
150 years.
So generations of academics, ethnographers, field researchers have been through that region.
Yeah.
And they all just assumed the answers to what is the Big Dipper were too basic to bother with.
That seems to be the case. The knowledge was right there, known by the people, waiting to be collected, but it was uncollected for a century and a half.
That just underscores the profound sense of urgency here. That information was available, but it was being actively ignored in favor of complexity, hiding in plain sight.
And the risk, of course, is that this data is disappearing daily. The commentary emphasized that if researchers could have gone to these places 100 years ago, they would have gotten substantially more material. Oral traditions are fragile.
They're dying out.
They are actively dying out. And if we don't ask these fundamental, simple questions now, that data, that vital historical map, will be lost forever.
So what does this all mean? We started this deep dive with 60,000 subjective stories.
And we ended up with an objective, quantitative tool for reconstructing human history.
A scientific tool. And the whole system works because Professor Berezkin and his team decided to track the very elements that other academics had dismissed as too simple.
It's a powerful lesson in the value of fundamental observation. His achievement isn't just about correcting stories, it's about transforming intangible heritage into measurable evidence.
All by applying scientific rigor to shared human experiences, like just staring up at the cosmos.
Exactly.
And it leaves you wondering, doesn't it, about the vast material still waiting to be collected. I mean, if the interpretation of something as universal as the Milky Way can tell us about ancient migrations, what other seemingly simple, everyday cultural interpretations are being overlooked right now in your own world?
What do we call the patterns in a wood grain, or what's the local legend about that specific hill?
Right. And what deeply embedded essential history might they be hiding, just waiting for someone to finally ask the simplest question?
A provocative thought indeed. That knowledge is often right under our noses.
Something to mull over until our next deep dive.